Anthony, I'll start with you since you are the guest of the episode. Who do you think is going to win the NFC North and why?
The Packers, just because of Aaron Rodgers, and I just feel like the other teams are not going to be as competitive as the Packers. I mean, you have Andy Dalton, which to me is just an absolute liability. I don't know how he has a starting job in the NFL. I think that definitely Justin Fields, maybe by week one, depending how training camp goes, maybe week four, if things don't go up to par, will probably be the starter. But I mean, you're still putting in a rookie as your starting quarterback, so that's going to be fascinating to see. Um, the Vikings, I mean, they're just so inconsistent. Kirk Cousins, I mean, he's the epitome of inconsistent. You have one year he has a good year, the next year he's an absolute no show. And Detroit with Jared Goff, I mean, I just don't think Detroit has the talent enough to be competitive with Green Bay and the other teams. So I can see Green Bay with a repeat of last year. Maybe not so the record. I think, now with the 17 game season, I can see them going 11-6, 12-5, but I think they got a pretty good handle on that division. I don't see any other team coming in close.
Yeah, the NFC North is definitely going to Green Bay. I agree with Ant completely in terms of record. I don't see them doing another not historic but dominant run like 13-3. I definitely see it more of a 12-5 year for sure. Aaron Rodgers being on any team makes him an automatic favorite. Obviously, Devontae Adams, best receiver in football, immediately. Obviously, you re-sign. Um, what's his name? Aaron Jones. He got his contract extension. Obviously, that offense is relatively the exact same. So you bring back the whole team. Defensively, I mean, they have one of the better corners in football in Alexander. I forget his first name for whatever
Jair.
reason.
Jair
Jair
Alexander.
Alexander. There it goes. Yeah, that guy. And I just think playmakers like that, the pass rush that they found a way to bring into the season, which is a big lackluster position for them, or at least dominating stat for them the previous years. Um, I think Aaron's got one more year in him. Obviously, he wants to end it with a bang because everybody knows his next year he's going to be a free agent. He gets to pretty much choose wherever he wants to go. So I don't know second place. Obviously, it's probably going to be a pretty toss up between I want to say Chicago and Minnesota because I think Justin Fields ends up taking that job. I've heard a lot of good things about him in camp. Heard a lot of good things about him in the locker room in terms of reports and analysts talking about how his reputation is preceding him and he seems well beyond his years. So the fact that Nick Foles, if I'm being completely honest with you, I have to say this. The fact that he is a third string quarterback behind a rookie when he has a championship ring is absolutely ridiculous. I don't care when you drafted Justin Fields. Nick Foles has experience that Justin Fields may never have. And to automatically just put someone of his caliber, granted, he did not play stellar last year, but to just disrespect him and place him at third automatically in the depth chart, I think Matt Nagy's going to regret that. Signing Andy Dalton was your first mistake, so let's just go with that. So that's why I think that it's going to be a toss-up because obviously you have one of the best backs in football, arguably the best back in football in Minnesota with Dalvin Cook, and you have a 1-2 punch with the wide receiver tandem of Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. I mean, those two are just absolutely ridiculous between route running capabilities, their catch radius. Justin Jefferson's probably got one up on the speed, obviously, not only because of his age, but he is a lot faster just naturally. And I think that offense has the potential to put up, 24 to 30 points a game if they really were to stay consistent, if the offensive line could protect. But it's the defense. That's the biggest question mark for Minnesota. A lot of times, Kirk Cousins, when he did play well, the defense let up, and that's definitely not Kirk's fault. But then there were games, like Ant said, where Kirk would throw 3-4 interceptions in 3 quarters, and you're like, yo, what are you doing? And they played catch up for the rest of it. So, which obviously takes out the ability for Dalvin Cook to be successful when you're down 2 scores. I think Detroit finishes the season at the bottom. Like Ant said, also they have no weapons. I mean, it's literally Jared Goff on an island by himself in terms of offensively. So I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit finds their way back into a top 5 lottery pick, 3-14, maybe 4-12, 4-13.
4-13.
Math isn't my friend. And yeah, the NFC North for the most part is pretty simple with Green Bay winning, but I want to say 2-3 is going to be a little bit more of a flip depending on how Chicago and Minnesota turn out. But you can for sure pin Green Bay 1, Detroit 4, and whatever the hell happens in the middle, it's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys 100%. I think Green Bay wins this division pretty much by a cakewalk here. Simply just because despite all the drama that's been going on in Green Bay the last couple months or so, I don't think it's going to really matter in the end, simply just because I don't expect a lot of competition from anyone else in the division. So I think the Packers are going to probably win. I'm going to say they're going to go 12-5. I don't know if they're going to have this season. I don't know if they're going to have the season like they did last year, finishing 13-3 at the top of the NFC. But I still think by and large they're going to be a top 2, top 3 team in the NFC this year. And then after that, it's really kind of a toss up, like Kevin mentioned. I'm going to have the Vikings in second place simply because, despite the fact offensively that they have Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen, the fact of the matter is that Kirk Cousins is just too unpredictable for me. But I do think that he will slightly improve from last season. Right, that's not saying much, but it's Kirk Cousins. You never really know what you're going to get with him. But I got to expect something different from the defense. The defense gave up the second most points in the entire conference last year. They gave up 475 points. So if they're gonna be somewhat competitive in the NFC this year or in the NFC North as well, their defensive effort is going to have to improve tremendously if they want to break 500 this year. I got the Bears in third place. There's just too much for me when it comes to the quarterback issue there. You've got 3 guys that are essentially vying for that quarterback spot. And to be quite honest with you, not any of them really thrill me. I think Justin Fields is obviously kind of the one we don't really know about yet, simply because he's coming into his first year as a potential quarterback for the Chicago Bears this year. But I guess time will tell in that sense. And I don't have a lot of faith in what Chicago's offense is going to be able to put out this year. So I have them third, and then the Lions. Essentially, that's where NFL careers go to die at this point. They were 5-11 last year. And Matt Stafford, by and large, was carrying that franchise for over a decade. So he finally gets to see some new horizons out in LA. I know we'll talk about the NFC West within the next couple of days or so. But yeah, by and large, I don't expect much from the Lions. I think they probably finish around 3-14, 4-13, somewhere around there. Um, yeah, it's where pretty much careers go to die at this point. That's pretty much my expectation with the Lions. So just to kind of reiterate where I stand, Packers will win the division pretty handily. Chicago may be second, but I'm going to go with Minnesota. I think Minnesota finishes second. Chicago finishes third. And then I got Detroit rounding out the division in fourth place.